5 straight. They've lost 5 straight. It seems to be getting uglier by the day. You had one of the quirkiest innings you will ever see in Major League Baseball. Good news is, hey, we stopped a scoreless streak. I think that's the headline. That's the good part of yesterday. Hello, everybody. Guardians lose 5-2 to the Cubs. Audio courtesy of Guardians Television Network. Anthony Lima and Daryl Ryder is in studio today for Kenny. Daryl, welcome in. We've got so much to pour over with you. Has it reached the point of, is it apathy? Is it not a tune-in anymore? What is it with the Guardians when you lose 5 straight and look like they have absolutely no answers whatsoever?
I actually had no intention of watching last night's game.
Wait, Daryl, you were coming on today and you had no intention?
Then I realized I was working this morning, number one. And then number two, I'm not going to lie, it's a pretty spectacular car crash right now when it comes to the Guardians, especially offensively. They are just so ineffectual and anemic at the plate.
5 hits last night?
I mean, the pitching's not the problem. Your starter gives up 4 runs. You're still in the ball game. You should still be able to win. But where the Guardians are concerned right now, having lost 16 of their last 23, a 3-run deficit. When I turned the TV on, it was 3-0 in the second inning. And I sat there and I was like, well, this one's over, but let's just watch and see what happens. And then, the pickoff inning, I guess we'll call it, happened. But they're just
3 runs felt insurmountable.
It does. It absolutely feels insurmountable. They are they can't get the kids up here fast enough. I think look, if you need to trade Carlos Santana today to make the room necessary to bring these kids up, to get them regular bats, because I'm not in favor of bringing Chase DeLauder up and Kefis up if they're just going to play once or twice a week. I want them up.
You mean the Manzardo special?
Yeah. I want them up, and I want them in the lineup on a daily basis. So whatever moves you need to make that happen, that needs to get done this week, because this is not a situation where, well, I still believe in these guys. We're going to maintain what we're doing because what we do works. No, what you're doing is not working. You can't. It's been almost a month and a half of this, Lyman, going all the way back to that getaway day in Detroit. They got shut out, right? They put the AAA lineup on the field because they won the first 3 games in the series. And they said, all right, let's just get out of town here. And it's been all downhill since then offensively. They've not recovered from that series finale in Detroit.
Hey, here's some Stephen Vogt on the offensive.
Go ahead.
It's hard to pinpoint right now. I feel like we've had the same conversation for a few weeks. We're working. Our guys, I thought, had better swings. We hit some balls hard up the middle. They got caught. Some good defensive plays by them. Thought we had pretty good at bats off Matt Boyd. Just weren't able to string things together. We just got to continue to work. We're going to continue to work and fight and believe. We're in it right now. This is when you have to get tough. This is when you have to get, let go, relax, and go play.
He's having the same conversations we are. Same conversation.
I didn't want to watch last night. We watched a TV show instead. I put it on my phone, and I was a little disheartened by watching it. Now I'm just mad.
See,
I'm just mad. Stop lying to me, Stephen Vogt. You're lying.
Yeah, I'm not mad. I kind of.
What's he lying about, Owen?
About how the offense is there.
Having the same conversation.
I'd really like to say go to hell, and not in a way that I want him personally to, but just your comments. Just don't try to sell me that stuff.
Well, I
know better.
Yeah.
I have eyeballs, Steve.
Well, we talked about this yesterday, that he's had his guys back. I think that wears very thin after a while when it's so evident. It's one thing to deal with, like a slump. Every team has their ups and downs in a baseball season. Every team's gonna have a bad week. The bad teams have multiple bad weeks, and then it continues to happen. I mean, the Guardians, this has been a common theme running throughout the entire season, and they haven't had any answers. There's obviously, I think you're even past the point. Is there going to be some big jolt? Is there going to be some groundswell of excitement when you get the DeLauder news, and when are we expecting it?
I have to think it's got to come this weekend.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's going to
Does it feel like too little, too late anyway?
It's 2 weeks too late.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Basically, we should just start like an exit velocity chant. Every time a guy hits a ball hard that it doesn't go anywhere, we just cheer for the exit velocity, right? Because that's what Vogt said last night, right? Oh, hitting some balls hard. They're just they're just outs, like.
And it's only going to get worse. Like 4 of the next 5 that they are going up against, starting pitchers, have like 2.5 ERA or below. So
what you're saying is things are looking up.
Well, you're already making very average to good pitchers look like Cy Young favorites, and now you're going up against the actual Cy Young favorites. So what is it going to look like?
Well, going into this game, 35 of the 36 innings they had played previously, they hadn't scored a run. They scored a run in this game.
They finally did.
Good.
That broke a 7.
Actually,
didn't that break a 17 inning scoreless streak?
But now they are at 43 of the 45 innings that they've played. They have not scored a run.
That seems impossible. That's what major league teams would do if you were only playing minor league teams. But I feel like even in spring training, when they still do this where they will do the split squad and one team will go play this team, the other team will play like some minor league team. Do they still do that?
They do that.
In the last 31 games, the Guardians are 11-20. 18 of those games, they scored 3 or fewer runs. They've been shut out 6 times.
6 shutouts.
That's not a slump. That's a tradition.
And obviously, it's not going to get any better. Oh, and you talked yesterday about the schedule. Obviously, they have the 2 games left against the Cubs. Then they have 3 against. Does Detroit still have the best record in baseball? And then they have 3 against Houston, 51-34.
Right. They're also good at baseball.
Guys, this is going towards the end of the first half of the season, July 13th, and people could be just completely out by then. I don't know if bringing up DeLauder do we think there's going to be movement on Kefis? I do know they're going to trade.
Well, Kefis can't play until they get rid of Carlos Santana.
Right. They've got to trade Santana. Oof. Even last night, again, Manzardo has to come in to pinch hit. The guy he's pinch hitting for is batting like what, 180?
Well, it's so bad they don't even put the batting averages on the scoreboard at the ballpark.
You can't do that.
They put the OPS up there now. They don't even put batting averages on the big board at Progressive Field.
Probably a smart play at this point.
But just think about that. It's so bad they can't put the batting averages on the scoreboard.
I'm sorry, David Fry not batting 180. He's batting 130.
Oh,
I spotted him 50. I spotted him 50 percentage points.
Well, here's the thing with the OPS, right? So luckily I listened to the Derry Brothers Guardians cast, and they talk about the OPS number is 712. That's the number where you go, oh, okay. Like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Much like batting average, it's always been 300, right? That's where we look at and go,
by the way,
that's good. Right?
I hate OPS, but go ahead.
OPS right now, you've got Jose Ramirez has an 860. You got Stephen Kwan has a 777. You got Kyle Manzardo 742, right? Those are the 3 that we kind of see on the offense. Nobody else is over 700.
And Manzardo doesn't get to play regularly.
Were you happy to see Rocchio last night? So, Fry,
sure.
Fry, 130. Thomas, 164. Those were 2 guys that kind of relied on.
Yeah.
They
were the heroes of the postseason last year.
So what was one of the biggest mistakes, obviously, aside from the obvious payroll slashing, which has been well chronicled, was it that we had any expectation that those guys could replicate what they had done? Not to mention,
part of that was injuries and missing though too.
Oh yeah,
and I do feel like when Lane Thomas has been here, he's hitting the ball hard. Good for him, right? Loud outs.
Exit velocity, Owen. Exit velocity.
Goes over
exit
the fence,
velocity. That's
most
what
of the time it gets caught.
Bo Naylor batting 166.
Our offensive catcher.
Jeez.
He at least threw a couple guys out last night.
Yeah, yesterday.
And what I thought was the most impressive thing was they didn't have to yell at the pitcher on the pass ball to run and cover home. He knew it already.
He knew it.
So Bo made a great play on that pass ball. Once again, pass ball in the major leagues. And then Gavin Williams covered home, and they actually got the out at home.
That
Great
used
job,
to be
guys.
my
I have
forte.
to yell at my 11-year-olds all the time. Make sure you're covering home. We don't have that many pass balls.
The Guardians, it has been a struggle, a big struggle. They finally did end a 17-inning scoreless streak yesterday in the loss to the Cubs, but they fall Gavin Williams with the loss, and they have now lost 5 straight games, and the schedule is brutal when it comes to the starting pitching they're going to be going up against over the next week. Daryl Ryder is in for Ken Carman. We'll have Sam Monson on the show coming up an hour and 20 from now. Daryl, it's gotten uglier by the game, it would seem. Stephen Vogt has got no answers whatsoever. Basically, every time he gets a chance to talk, he's just backing his guys.
Yeah.
He's not really, if you're being fair, he doesn't sound very truthful about the state of affairs. He knows they suck. He can't say that his lineup sucks. He knows they suck.
Oh, good. Here's Stephen Vogt on Gavin Williams' performance last night.
I thought the second inning they jumped him. They had 4 really good at-bats in a row off of him. And other than that, I thought he was really good. He gave up the solo homer, a couple of extra walks. But all in all, I thought Gavin did a nice job. He's developing really well. He's been solid for us. Just continue to learn, continue to get better each time out.
Other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
That's great, except for he gave up 3 runs in the second, and we lost.
Hey,
when
listen.
We only scored 2 runs.
Listen, at least he didn't go full Butch Davis and say, well, other than the 98 and the 97-yard touchdown runs, our run defense was spectacular.
I remember that game.
Oh, wait, how's the offense, Stephen?
It's hard to pinpoint right now. I feel like we've had the same conversation for a few weeks. We're working. Our guys, I thought, had better swings. We hit some balls hard up the middle. They got caught. Some good defensive plays by them. Thought we had pretty good at bats off Matt Boyd. Just weren't able to string things together. We just got to continue to work. We're going to continue to work and fight and believe. We're in it right now. This is when you have to get tough. This is when you have to get, let go, relax, and go play.
Listen, I'm just glad the exit velocity is still there. Like the exit velo is there.
It looks great when it lands in the fielder's glove, but they hit it hard.
Okay, so he said something there. After the 5-2 loss yesterday, 5 in a row, the chance at a playoff spot. I mean, that is... I kept saying, well, at least our pitching will keep us in it all year.
I'm really bothered that you're even bringing this topic up right now.
Well, hold on a second here. He's saying we're having the same conversation. Yeah, we all are. The entire city that cares about baseball has been having the same conversation.
The Browns score more than you right now.
Well, the only thing that could possibly shake anything up, and it's not like I have huge expectations for guys coming up from the minors, but that's the only spark that's going to get anybody interested in anything developing right now with that team and the organization. Yeah. So when you are in a situation like that, when you look up and down their lineup, they're basically bottom 5 in every statistical offensive category. This has been a lost year for the Guardians, and I don't see that getting salvaged at any point, even if the schedule does get easier after, in the second half of the post All-Star break.
Well, you go back to 2018, right? And that was the end of that 3 year, 16, 17, 18. They made the playoffs each year, right? It's been every other year. Make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs, make the playoffs, make them. So now we're in the don't make the playoffs, which means next year they should make the playoffs again. They've just not been able to establish any semblance of consistency organizationally right now. And you're seeing that at the plate. I mean, they're consistently inconsistent. The runs come in bunches when they do arrive. I mean, hey, they scored 2 runs in an inning, but they were goose eggs for the rest of the game. Same thing the other day. St. Louis, the game against St. Louis, they went up 6-1, scored 6 runs in the inning. They ended up losing that game 9-6. And look, last 31 games, 11-20. They've scored 3 or fewer runs 18 times. They've been shut out 6 times, and no surprise, they've lost 16 of the last 23. I would just, on behalf of Cleveland Guardians fans, I would like to apologize to the rest of the country right now for having to endure Guardians baseball on national TV. They've been on Apple TV, the Roku Sunday thing. Last night they were on TBS.
Since
tonight,
last Friday.
Yeah, this is since last Friday, and tonight they're on ESPN, Guardians and Cubs. So,
how many runs they've scored in those 3 so far of the 4 national matchups?
I'm going to say less than 10 combined.
It was 2. It was the 2 that they scored last night.
Yeah, it is. It is obviously very bleak, and they deserve all the criticism. Obviously, I have to say, like we were this show, and Ken's not here today, but we talked a little bit about it yesterday. He'll be back tomorrow. Um, we were the last ones. We were holding on, right? We were doing everything we could to stay optimistic, and we both had the same point of view. It's like if any team had earned the benefit of the doubt, I thought it was this team. I thought it was this organization. But I mean, we got to bail at some point, and it's clear that there's nothing that can be done. This offense is not going to change at any point. In fact, man, over the next week and a half could get worse, considering the starters
They're
are going
only
up
3 out
against.
of the wild card right now.
And you know what? Notice, I'm not even saying that. And I had been saying that, as recently as like a week ago, but the wild card, but they're pitching.
Do you even want them to make the wild card just so they can get waxed?
Yeah,
because that's what's going to happen.
I can't. No, I can't.
They
I'll
scare
stop
nobody.
you there.
They
Yes.
threaten nobody.
You're right.
They're
All
not.
of that is true.
They're not competitive. I don't even know if it's worth it.
But this isn't the NFL. This isn't the NBA where your draft pick is something we're going to be monitoring, closely by trying to do everything we can to get to the top of the draft.
Travis Banzana, come on.
I know. Yeah, it'd be nice to see him.
Well, he's got to get
Unfortunately,
healthy
the
first.
injuries. Yeah, unfortunately, the injuries have bit.
Don't sit there
Don't sit there and tell me Major League Baseball draft picks don't matter.
You don't want to play through strains. I just watched the NBA playoffs. It's horrible.
Yeah, that is a good point. But at some point, I need some excitement. No, when I say the draft, I just mean
I know I'm teasing you.
Yeah, we don't as fans.
pulled
Obviously,
you.
the front office monitors that stuff, but as fans, we're not sitting there angling for a better pick for a better prospect the way we would in the other sports.
I don't know. I think the Chicago White Sox would like a word. The Kansas City Royals would like a word. The Houston Astros would like a word. These are all. This is where the Guardians get the most credit. Okay, we have never seen them do what those teams that I just mentioned, who've gone on to win World Series after doing it, with the exception of the White Sox here, because they're in the middle of it. The Guardians have never gone full tank. They've never gone full Pittsburgh Pirate, capsizing, lose 110, 15 games, try and get the draft assets that you're alluding to there, Anthony. They've not done that. And they could have. On many occasions, they could have gone that route, and they've resisted it. They've always tried to rebuild, retool, whatever you want to describe it. They always try to do that on the fly. And they're kind of trying to do it this year a little bit. We've seen it in previous years. So I will give them credit where they just don't completely go belly up and lose 115 games in a season so they can improve their draft picks. I got to give them credit for that. Yes, it's unwatchable right now. The offense is putrid, okay? And that might even be an insult to putrid. But, they're a couple games below 500. They are not the worst team in baseball. At some point, hopefully they come out of this, whatever mess they find themselves in right now. And my hope is that the kids will help them do it.
Daryl, what part of you believes that even if they get the better draft pick, that kid's going to be up here within the next 4 years anyway?
Right.
I mean, Chase DeLauder was a first-round draft pick, and he's not toiling down in Columbus because he's killing it down in Columbus right now.
And we're about to see him soon, though.
You know what's
that's
interesting?
What we think.
I have mentioned this. You go back to the 90s, right? They couldn't develop a pitcher to save their life. I mean, they constantly were trying to find that ace to complement those basher lineups that they had. Now it's Cy Young Award winners grow on trees for this organization right now, and they can't seem to develop a pure hitter since Jose Ramirez to save their life. It's so bizarre to me. And I don't know, maybe they're scared of their own shadow. Okay, yeah, so Chase DeLauder's tearing it up down in AAA. I feel like they're scared of their own shadow right now. They don't want to bring him up because they're afraid that he's going to face Major League pitching and he's going to fail. And if he fails, his confidence could get hurt, and then they could have to send him back to Columbus to get his confidence back. Like, I kind of feel like they're living in their fears a little bit by keeping some of these bats down in Columbus.
But isn't it really, are those the fears, or is it service time? Are they still on the service time?
I feel like it's totally service
time. And, the other part of it, Daryl, is one thing I don't want to hear, and I've heard some people around the organization say this, that, Jose Ramirez, when he first came up, he struggled. And you could list the litany of guys who have struggled when they first came up. Okay, so wouldn't you want to bring him up sooner? and get that out of the way.
Out of the way.
Like, why would you want to delay that?
Manzardo struggled and now has been good when he gets to play.
He never played.
But you know who didn't struggle when they brought him up? Stephen Kwan.
Yeah.
Like, that's enough for me to go, let's see what else happens. Let's see what the other outfielder does.
Lindor, right? I mean, but yeah. Some guys can handle it. There's only one way to find out. Let's go.
Get him up here and play him.
Because your season, you have a lost season. I mean, there's no doubt this has become a lost season.
So our biggest problem, too, is we have first place Cubs right now.
Mm-hmm.
We play first place Tigers. Then we play first place Astros, right? And then White Sox, and then you have a break, right? After the break, and who knows where they'll be in the wild card then. They're 3 games out right now, but they host Athletics, who are not good. They host the Orioles, who are not as good as they should be. They host Royals, who are not as good as they should be. They
finally opens up.
Or they're at the Royals, I'm sorry. Then they host the Rockies. Then they have the Twins. And then finally, in August, you play the Mets, who aren't as bad. But then you get the White Sox again. So the schedule is going to be totally flipped. And the Marlins right after them. And they're going to somehow play themselves back into the wild card-ish because of that schedule. And now we're all going to be sitting there with the false sense of hope that something could happen.
Well, I saw a stat against teams above 500. They're like 10 games below 500.
We're done playing them after this.
Right.
2 weeks.
Yeah, that maybe is the
playing
good
the
news.
good teams.
All right, Mike, Brian, a line opens up 216-474-0092. We will take your calls on the lost Guardian season. Let it out. Let's hear the anger. Because many of you that told us that that's what it was going to be after this offseason where they did not spend money following Daryl's got his hand up right now. Let me have it.
Can I do champions
pose?
Okay.
You guys were right, but we have some fans. I said, let us have it. You know, this show in particular, and Kenny would attest, we defended the Guardians. We gave them a benefit of the doubt that I think was earned. I absolutely think they earned the benefit of the doubt, but we can give it to you no longer. Like, you guys were right. That were really irate over the offseason, the trading of Josh Naylor, the slashing of payroll after the ALCS. And now they're in a tailspin. They've lost 5 in a row. They have, to me, I can't believe there are 3 or 4 other offenses that are worse than this. I just can't believe it. Like the Rockies have better offensive numbers across the board than the Guardians do right now. And it gets even more brutal over the next 2 weeks. Mike in Elyria, you're next up on the Fan. How are you, Mike?
Good morning, guys. Hey, you know what? In about an hour or so, I'm going to go out on a golf course, and I'm going to hack it up like you've never seen. And I know, you know what? Because I'm a hack, I don't have the right to be mad about it because I'm not good. And I was sitting there watching the Guardians last night, and I'm thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, you know what? What am I getting upset about this team for? They don't even belong in the same context with good. They did nothing. They are doing nothing. Like, the status quo is their plan all the time. And, you know, this front office gets a lot of credit for all the pitching success that they bring about. But they don't get hammered enough for the lack of position players that they develop. Or, even more importantly, guys like Ernie Clement, who stink when they're here, but then go someplace else and they're batting 300. That's a common occurrence. And we let that slide all the time. Urshela, Clement, Yandy Diaz, all of these guys. Where in the hell is our coaching at? Where is our front office? What is our plan? We don't have anything in place.
Mike, I can't disagree with anything you just said. The fact that they've not been able to develop. I mean, the outfield, the platoon that we've had basically for how long, Daryl? It's just most competitive teams.
Since 2001.
Boy, it seems that way, right?
Yeah.
Listen, I make jokes about how they collect middle infielders like I collect bobbleheads, and none of them are any darn good. It's amazing to me. And yeah, I have no rebuttal for you, Mike. Sorry. I know we're supposed to debate this, but there's nothing to debate. Stephen Kwan is an anomaly. Jose Ramirez is an anomaly. Carlos Santana, an anomaly. Like this lineup is full of 4A hitters. They're
it seems worse than that right now.
I mean, and you get John Kenzie Noel and Will Wilson. They go back to AAA, and all of a sudden their bats start finding baseballs again. But then you get them up here and they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. They standing in front of the thing. I don't know if it's the hitting approach. I don't know if it's the coaching. It's certainly not the technology. They've made tremendous investments in all of this technology to help their hitters. The film study, maybe, I don't know, maybe they're doing too much film study and it's paralysis by analysis. I don't know what the problem is. What I do know is everything that they're doing consistently does not work offensively. Unless, again, your names are Stephen Kwan, Jose Ramirez, and the only reason I'm throwing Carlos Santana in there is because he was originally a Cleveland Indian, bounced around a little bit. He's back and, not going to be here for the rest of the season. But they don't develop offensive talent in this organization. And, the other problem is they perform in the minor leagues when we were talking about getting Delauder up here and getting these other kids up here because they're performing. It's time to bring them up, get them in the lineup. But I don't know. Maybe they know something that we don't.
No, and they don't. This is.
Maybe they know that their approach stinks. Maybe they know that their development stinks, and it's just not going to make a difference. I don't know, but my four eyes tell me they cannot develop offensive talent in this organization. That is something they need to take a deep dive into.
I mean, Daryl, we can be honest here. We're an honest radio show. You said you barely watched him yesterday. Oh, and you said you guys got other things going on.
I intended to not watch them, and I ended up watching.
I didn't intend to watch them, but I turned it on in the second inning, and I turned it on in the second inning, and we're down 3-0.
Yeah,
Game over.
Same thing. I got the text yesterday. It said I'm done, and man, it is early. It is early. We are talking about the start of July. We're not even into the dog days yet.
So what sucks
of the summer,
and I've bitched about it on the air, but I'm going to continue to spend well over $1,000, probably closer to $2,000.
You're wearing your jersey this morning. You're wearing your hat.
I've worn Cleveland Guardians stuff. If there's 5 days in the week of coming to work, I wear it 4 days a week.
You bought the new hat. That's the new hat, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean,
you are to Guardians gear what Ken is to Iowa State gear.
That's true. And I'm not getting it, mailed to me every 3 days.
You're spending money.
But it's not even about spending the money or not, right? I'm doing that. That's where my disposable income goes right now. When I'm not spending it on my children, trying to go compete in a tournament somewhere or something like that. But that's where I'm spending my money. And I don't know that I'm going to stop doing that because I enjoy my time at the ballpark. I do. But I also last night had an opportunity to lay outside in a hammock for a while or run in and watch the start of the game. And I didn't do that. And then I had the opportunity for one of the rare nights that I'm home and not doing something with the kids. My wife and I chose to watch a TV show over doing it. And I even snuck it in on my phone and got to see the disappointment there. So I don't know that, I'm out yet, but man,
you're closer than I've ever heard, man.
I'm pissed about it because I've already made the investment into it. And I'm sure there's tons of people out there that are the same way, that don't want to give up what has been such a enjoyable thing in their life.
Because you have believed in them.
It feels like the ball club's letting me down. It feels like the front office, by not making the moves to at least try, are letting me down.
You know what, Owen? Just go for the giveaways.
I don't get there early enough for that, Daryl.
Yeah, that is the thing. Yeah, good positioning.
That's why I buy the special tickets, so I guarantee myself the giveaway.
Russ in Euclid, next up on the Fan. Hello, Russ.
Good morning, gentlemen. Listen to Daryl getting some Browns-esque rantings on the Guardians. Here's the bottom line. Last year, they got good starting pitching, great relief pitching, and that dragged them through. This year, when they don't get pitching, they lose. In fact, I looked it up. Their record in games that they've scored, given up 5 or more, is 5-26.
Oof.
I'm not saying 5 runs is the Bash Brothers or the 27 Yankees, but wow, it's just when I used to call them, when they were the Indians, the impotent Apaches, and they're literally what they are now, impotent. It's sad to watch.
All right, you're gonna have to come up with other alliteration with the Guardians. You're gonna have to find something.
God awful guards.
That works. Alex in Ohio City. Go ahead.
Too quick. You've been saying that.
Yeah. I just think it's sad that, we're a couple games away from the World Series last year and they cut the payroll. You know, I mean, obviously Andres Jimenez is a huge loss, and there's a lot of that money. But when you have Jose Ramirez here having a Hall of Fame career, having almost an MVP year, and they there's just no sense of urgency, and it's just sad to see.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I wonder what somebody like Jose Ramirez is thinking.
They didn't even get mad the other day when he got drilled.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody flinched.
I know. The fact that is, listen, the Stephen Vogt, it's year number 2. He was excellent in year number 1. This has obviously not been a great year. It's not his fault necessarily, but in that game, doesn't he have to ignite the passions?
I'm not mad at him about the lineups and the people that he's had to, plug into the 2-hole and the platoon out in right field. I'm not mad about all that. He has to. The chef can only work with the ingredients that are bought for him, right? If he's not the one making the purchase. What I am mad about is when he comes on after a game and tells me that, oh, we almost had it tonight. Like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't almost have it.
We hit
tonight,
some balls
Steve.
hard. That's the equivalent in the NBA of, oh, we got our shots. We got good looks.
We all have an employer, right? I'm sure everyone listening has an employer. And there are days where you'd like to tell them to bleep off because they have not provided you with what you need to succeed in your job. But we don't always say it. Some days you do. I know that he can't just come out and say it, but it's time to get away from the feel goods after a game in which we finally scored 2 runs in 43 out of the 45 innings that we've played. We finally scored some runs.
Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, all 3 in town right now, managers, coaches, they all kind of have the same disposition. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Kenny Atkinson very rarely got, even in the playoffs, they lost in 5 games and he didn't seem
other than being upset about the injuries. And then also
that was the only time all year I'd really heard him.
Also, he talked a lot about the pushing and the grabbing and the holding and stuff like that. He was, but
I'm talking about at no point did they have to hold him back.
Sunny side up. The sun comes up tomorrow.
It was the opposite of JB.
Yeah, right. And Stefanski, he's been here long enough now. We certainly know his disposition. So you'd like to right now vote whether it's going after umpires or there is always a time and place, but to do it to really get your team fired up. Right now he's in protection mode. He's been protecting his guys. He has not been critical. There's at no point have you been able to misconstrue what he might be saying about the organization. He hasn't done any of that. At some point, you do have to flip a switch there, do you not?
Yeah, at some point, you have to realize it's okay to get thrown out of a game. For the right reason, of course. You don't do it just for the sake of doing it.
They give you 162.
But that Jose Ramirez situation, that was the situation you should have gotten yourself thrown out. If your bench isn't even going to move.
It's Jose.
They didn't even flinch. That's your franchise player. He took a hometown discount to stay here. Okay, and knowing full well these were the type of teams he was going to have to deal with, and not a soul decided to budge when he got smoked. And oh, by the way, had to leave the game, ended up missing subsequent games. None of you moved, and all Stephen Vogt had in him was to run out and go toward and then just chat it up with the umpire. Get yourself thrown out. Get held back
after the umpire.
They went through the motions there.
The ump also gave the Guardians a warning on it too.
Right.
Which you thought would have thought
in a retaliation situation.
You would have thought would have made him irate.
You got to get tossed.
Jimmy Concord, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'm a little different with it. I appreciate the Guardians, Indians. For what they've done over the years. I'm very disappointed this year. Now, could it be that we had that leftover year from Francona last year? That's why Vogt was so good. Maybe he's the problem. You guys aren't.
I hope that's not the case.
Maybe they're just bad now because of the way he runs the team.
Well, he reminds me a lot of Tito, to be honest with you. When I listen to Stephen Vogt, when I've covered games and just kind of things that I observe, Stephen Vogt reminds me a lot of a young Terry Francona, and I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he is. I mean, I'm hoping, but I'm just saying maybe that's part of the problem as well, because we seem to have the same ingredients we've had. Now, we've had some injuries, I understand, but I still believe in the the whole program. I think they've been the top program in Cleveland, over the last 10, 15 years. So.
All right, Jim. Yeah, listen, this is why I've been giving them the benefit of the doubt. I've seen so many teams, especially under Tito, surge in the second half of the season. But what about this team makes you think at all that that's in the cards going forward? Where is the spark? I mean, keep in mind, they had been this listless offensively, and Jose Ramirez is having a great year, and Stephen Kwan was having a great year. So they were still ineffective as an offense, as a lineup.
Look, very rarely in sports do you have a continuation in personality. Usually when there's a managerial or a coaching change, the personalities change, right? You go from the player's coach to the disciplinarian, and then you go back to the player's coach, right? This was an interesting decision that the Guardians organization made, and it was deliberate because of the success that Tito had here and how he ran things. It was as if they were specifically looking for someone like him, and they found him in Stephen Vogt. Very rarely do you kind of get a continuation of a personality when you make a change like that or have a change made. I'm not saying the Guardians made a change, but you know what I'm